something's wrong.
Every time we change something, there's going to be some type of reaction. For every reaction, there's a reaction, right?
My jam. How'd you know?
I think the girls with their nails done now.
Reunited. Reunited.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
The OG list. I had a little stickers on it, but
That's right.
I left everything.
Oh shit, that's right. No, we got it from Wayne.
Yeah, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that's it's pretty funny. Back on the lift that we used to actually build the car back in 2021, and when we left DC Sport, my buddy Sam was looking for one for a shop. And I was selling it, and then he wound up back over here at DSPORT, and the lift is back over here. We're here, and it was open, and she's back on it. So Mike's over here. He's over here draining all the old oil out of the system, just making sure there was no cross-contamination with water and oil from pulling the head off, but said everything looked good.
Pretty much. Took a sample, added the pan from the last bit since water sits on top of oil. And it's all just oil, so should be good. And we're just gonna do our due diligence anyway and flush it out. Make sure it's good to go for Atlanta.
Good. I like that. I like that. I mean, I feel good that, you know, being here with our engine builder in the machine shop, running on the dyno, if anything does happen, at least we'd be in good hands to get it sorted. Before we make our long trek. And I'm really fortunate for the guys over here at DSPORT for being so diligent and wanting to do things the right way. And obviously just for our amazing partners for giving us what we need to make everything happen. So going to continue to plug away and just make it all happen. Mike has been extremely busy with not only our stuff, but everything else that he has going on in the shop. So we're extremely grateful for him, you know, putting us up and getting us ready for the next round, because this guy's got to start heading on the road here pretty soon. Find anything else of interest past the intake valves?
Everything else looked beautiful. 4 intake valves got bent up. They were the ones on, I think it was cylinders 4 and 5, I think.
4 and 6, I think.
4 and 6.
Yeah, 4 and 6.
Fortunately, we already had 4 new valves ready to go. So these are the old ones, these are the new ones. You could see how much has to come off of them to tip them down.
So Mike's dusting off this cam real quick, but what would appear to be a standard Tomei Japan cam is not so standard. You want to kind of fill us in on the little modifications that you made from what we found on the cam failure that we had in the last motor.
So we noticed that the area between the journal and the lobes is kind of a raw casting. Like, they do a little bit of cutting down on it, but they don't have a real large fillet like we put in there. So we had to get a specialized cutter and put fillets in between all these. And what that does is it eliminates any type of stress concentration or areas that it's prone to cracking. So even if we took away material, we actually gained some, you know, impact strength in case, not just impact, but I mean bending and stuff. Chilled cast iron doesn't like to be bent at all. It's a great material for compression, but in tension it's not a great material. But you shouldn't have too much tension in normal situations. But with aluminum block like that, a billet block, it's going to grow a lot more. And Nissan didn't engineer the tensioner and stuff as you would have on an aluminum block. So it's a little bit different. It's just a fixed tensioner, so there's no type of hydraulic adjustment or a spring or anything like that, pneumatic or anything. So yeah, you have to kind of compensate one way or another, and what Bullet recommends is setting the belt tension once the engine's at operating temperature. And I guess you could do that. I mean, it's a little bit hard, but we modified the cover on the engine so you can kind of get in there and do that. Failure to do that on a regular basis and making sure you're good, especially after you crank up the boost and this thing's running hotter, that's probably what caused that. But this modification here, it's a pain in the butt to do, but it'll probably save us in the future if that issue comes up again. We probably won't have a crack at that point.
So we had these cams, right? I mean, they make a billet camshaft. Now, why aren't we going to a billet? Is a billet camshaft your cure-all, or is
yes and no?
Okay.
So a billet camshaft, the material's really good in tension. Can have good compressive strength, but the problem with steel is, depending on the heat treat, it can be 1,000 different things. You know, you could get the same steel, heat treat it one way, heat treat it another way, and it can be completely different. So, you know, on a camshaft, you want really nice surface hardness, but you don't want it hard throughout the whole thing. So they almost want to case harden it, or just, you know, get the shell of it hard so that it can ride against the lifter. And that's the problem with billet cams. Sometimes you'll have a compatibility issue. Mercedes had an issue back in like 2000 when they first started using billet cams because they couldn't find the right lifter. You got to have a compatible hardness between the two. Chilled cast iron is like compatible with everything. We use the DLC buckets on it and it works great, especially when we have the time. We don't have time this time, but we usually WPC treat the lobes, and a WPC treated surface against a DLC treated surface is like a match made in heaven.
Aren't my piston rings are in the motor?
Yeah, all the Club DSPORT piston rings are WPC coated, or WPC treated. It's not a coating. That's, a lot of people think it's a coating, but it's not a coating. It's actually a treatment process where they take these really tiny ball bearings and they blast them at it. There's also some other stuff mixed in that media that they're blasting it with, and it dimples up the surface. It hardens the surface and it dimples it up, so you accomplish two things. You got a nice hard surface, but then you also have a good oil retention surface. So it's perfect against DLC. DLC doesn't require a lot of oil, but you can get stiction, which is you have two smooth surfaces against each other. They actually don't want to move. But with a WPC surface and a DLC, it floats. It's kind of like it seems like it's magic. So that's kind of the ultimate interface if you get those.
So it reduces the friction and increases the longevity of your parts.
Yes. And reducing friction also cuts down on your heat, because we always talk about friction. Well, friction is just some type of mechanical energy that gets turned into heat, and you know, the more friction you can reduce, that is the more, you know, wasted horsepower that you're kind of just regaining. So,
and it comes into longevity too, because the more that you're able to keep things in an adequate temperature, in theory, if you could run 1,000 horsepower at 9,000 RPM for a sustained amount of time, but it ran as your daily driver car where it never broke temperature, it always stayed adequate at where it was, right. In theory, it could last forever.
Yeah, I mean,
how it would in an OEM specification if you daily drive in the car.
And it's interesting, you know, OEMs, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, these engines are running so hot, and there's actually an advantage to running hot too. You actually have less wear when you run hot, up to a point. If you still have the right clearances and stuff, you know, they run some of the, you know, modern engines and stuff at like 210 degrees, you know, coolant temperature and stuff like that. Whereas back in the days, it was like you put in your 160 thermostat or your 180 thermostat and stuff like that. And, you know, as you know, with running the Sunoco E85 and stuff like that, you know, the Sunoco blends with ethanol, you want to get the right amount of temperature in the engine so that the ethanol that does make its way into the oil does get cooked off. The moisture that does get into the oil does get cooked off. But, you know, as you mentioned before, the challenge with the billet block and kind of the direction things were going, it takes a lot of oil flow to keep up with that. So, you know, we might have to look at a bigger pressure stage on the dry sump, or overdriving it a little bit more to get it some more output, just to make sure that there's enough there. I mean, you've got great oil pressure until the end of that, that one more time run that you do. And then at that point, it's just like kind of, okay, well, it's kind of marginal right now.
Right.
Let's get back to the pits and cool off.
So we did 3 tests, and what they found is that what we had expected from last year is that every 10 degrees is a huge change in clearances. And we're noticing that with oil pressure dropping, the hotter that the motor gets.
Room temp, oven temp at 160 and then 210. The
Like,
margin is so high.
that you can see it's a massive growth difference. As Dustin would like to say, it's less than ideal. The hotter that the engine goes, the more oil pressure that we're seeing. I mean, we're still getting 10 psi for every 1,000 RPM, but you don't ever want to be right at the limit.
Yeah. That's why they make those 3mm thick head gaskets. What we're gonna do, this hole here, we're gonna turn it into a ring dowel hole. Get the right size for the ring dowel. And we ran the CNC program for the cylinder head, matching it to this. See, it gets thinner up here. It matches that whole deal, but the cool part is you put those dowels in there and the manifold's just 100% lined up because we actually use the program from Plasma. They gave us the file, the exact shape of their port, so that's what we put on here. So that's the exact port for that.
You notice that the CNC port is only on the outer edges of this, and then the rest of this machine cast gets ported by hand.
Correct.
Because typically, from our experience, what we've noticed is that I've only had maybe one cylinder head ever that was CNC ported that didn't rupture. To be completely fair, and I think, in my theory, is that sometimes maybe these just aren't exactly where they are every single time.
So yeah, so there's different ways to do it, and we've got one trick I'm not going to share exactly, but needless to say, the way that we do it accommodates for that casting shift. Whereas others are just like, well, this is the blueprint, this is where it should be.
Right. And it typically isn't. I mean, we live in an imperfect world, and even with everything, I mean, with all the castings and stuff like that, like, I mean, as we can even see with, even with the aftermarket stuff, we don't live in a perfect world, and not everything always matches up. And there's only a limit to where you can go. And if you're keeping it at a relatively stock level, you would probably never experience that. But due to how much we're really pushing these things and the endurance that we're putting them through, we find the holes in everything.
Yeah, and it's usually on the exhaust side. It's really easy to
Yes, it's always on the exhaust.
So we came up with our own little port. This one here, you can't see it. Maybe on this one you can see it. On this one, right? Because it's easier to see before you port it. You can actually see it. But this is our D port. It's a D-shaped port, which gives you the highest velocity. And take the minimum off the floor, raise the roof as much as we can, and stay away from the water jacket. The exhaust ports have a lot of extra material around the lower stud that's near it. And the reason being is there's a water jacket in between here. And if you port too much,
you can see that right
you
here.
can crack into the water jacket there.
The performance gain that you get from like a really knife edge sharp CNC port, you will feel the difference on that in the ramp, like the power coming in, like the crispness of it, but I feel that the risk for reward is just not worth it.
Yeah, you're better off doing it by hand. I mean, you know, if you know what to look out for, and you can go in there and do it all by hand, and just, you know how the port's been shifted and all that. So it's kind of like, you know, doing it this way, doing the match port and the CNC, it's kind of like putting training wheels on it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it a lot easier for the cylinder head porter to go in and finish the job because they already have the end point here. And in fact, in some cases, we'll actually do a pre-valve job on the inside here. It's basically a valve job where we didn't actually cut the 45 yet, so we just done the rest of it. And that opens up the throat to know exactly, you know, here's point A on the intake, here's point B, and you can kind of work the floor. You don't want to take, you know, you want to take the minimum off the floor, just smooth that shape out, but you want to gain as much as you can in the roof. You know, raise the roof as much as you can. And the width of the port's gonna, raise the roof. The width of the port's gonna be determined upon the RPM level that you're hoping to reach, and also the displacement.
Just that one?
Yeah.
The housing?
Next day, got a little bit of rest, but head's checked out, everything's looking great. We got Mike prepping the intake side with the intake manifold on. He's already got the exhaust side on. You did that in record time flat, brother.
I've been around the block a few times.
Right there. Yeah?
There you go. We got it, baby.
Oh, that's a lovely sound.
Yeah, right?
There.
One time.
Yeah. Doom. Throwing in these fresh 625 plus custom age half-inch studs. Elon's gonna lap these washers. This is pretty cool right here, man. When I was first told to come over here, you know, I've grown up reading DSPORT magazine. And DSPORT magazine to me is like the pinnacle of magazines because it's it's always been based on like science and fact and education, as opposed to like, this is the cool looking car, right? So like I always learned a ton just from reading the magazine, and then I never realized that it was a full machine shop. And in 2021, I needed a crank cut down and balanced, and I had a buddy say like, yeah, just take it over to Mike at DSPORT. And I was like the magazine? I'm like, yeah, like the magazine. And I was like, okay. So I came over here, and I had no idea that it was such a legit proficient shop here. But it's really cool to see like the history of all the magazines that they have here. It's just so dope. They have it from all over the years too. I don't exactly know how long it goes back, but I think it's really cool to see all the issues. Like, this is dope. Look at that. Mine. This dude right here is a gangster. So he's also he'll come in and do work from time to time, but he was a big part of building out the machine shop here and instructing everybody how everything gets done. And dude worked for Cosworth, US and UK, it says right here, for over 20 years. And this is really cool right here. Built 3 engines that competed in the 1996 Indy 500. These rebuilt the engines at 250 miles, but there were 2 500-mile races every year, and those engines were built from mostly new parts. It's pretty dope right there, man. The bikes. Got her together. Adding fluids. Yeah, you wish you were Larry. You wish you had Larry Steves, dude.
I do.
You don't.
I wish.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
Hats off to you, Larry.
I know. He's so good. Feeling confident or what?
We'll see. These aren't my normal glasses, and I apologize to everybody. I just realized.
Yep. Something's wrong. So we can't trust
win.
anybody, and we can't win. Yeah.
Can't fucking win. That's what it boils down to.
So we found that the head was completely dry, and we just couldn't figure it out. And then we spun this up when we verified that we did have oil coming out of the block.
Yeah, right there. That's the oil feed into the head. And without the head on, it's shooting oil up there like crazy.
And then we found, because this was something that we wanted to do for last year. We wanted to switch up to a 625 plus bolt. Contacted the guys over at Bullet, and he's like, yeah, I got plenty on the shelf. But the problem is, the way that the oil feeds to the head is that if you look in here, that the oil actually goes through the bolt, right? It passes around the bolt into a channel. But if you look here, Mike's going to measure this to show you. This is a standard bolt that was in that comes with the block. It's never been an issue.
About 464.
And then we'll go over to the 625 bolt that we just got.
499.
So it's a considerable difference.
35 thousandths bigger in diameter. And the problem is the size of the hole. Let's just measure the one hole that it matters on. Where are you? Right here. Look at that. 4995.
So it was just such a tight fit.
492.
It just starved the head full of oil. I just starved the head of oil.
You can see how tight it is in there.
Yeah, no, that thing is just nothing.
Wow.
And then the other one has to
And this one.
wiggle it.
Oh, it's massive.
You know?
So that's the problem sometimes, you know, when you make a change for, you know, every time you change something, there's going to be some type of reaction for that. For every action, there's a reaction, right? And in this case, if they would have just changed the one thing, we would have been fine. They would have taken the same exact bolt and just changed the alloy from what it was to what we needed it to be. Everything's fine. Somebody along the way said, hey, let's re-engineer this. Let's make it thicker here. Oh, yeah. So the biggest problem with this is
It scored this journal.
it scored this journal really bad. Normally on the fronts of these, there's a little bit extra clearance in the front, and you know you've got the tension and all that, and it looks like it just got pulled right in that corner and just burnt it up without any oil in it, and it didn't take long. It probably
It ran for
30
2
seconds.
seconds. Not even. Not even 30 seconds.
Well, I'm gonna sleep on it for at least 2 hours tonight because that's probably all we're getting.
Oh
And
my
after that, we'll make a
gosh.
decision in the morning.
I only got 1 hour sleep last night. Yeah. I took a nap earlier for 30 minutes and made my day so much worse. It took like 3 Red Bulls to get me back up, dude.
If we have our cylinder head porter coming back tomorrow, finish that other head, or we'll steal the head off of my 33. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Fuck, dude.
My engine has to come out anyway, right?
Well, that's all she wrote for now. So I'm over here at my buddy Jason Noren Fabrications place. Jason is a TIG-only shop. He's very attentive to detail. He definitely knows what he's doing, and I wouldn't just let anybody weld on the cylinder head. So what I'm going to have Jason do is just add some material into that journal, so that way we can put it back into the cam bore machine and get it straight. I sent him some pictures. He sounded pretty confident that he could make it happen. So
That's my jam. How'd you know?
some material here, so I can.
Was it me?
If you need us to sign a waiver, we can definitely do that, especially for her. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I really just need some material added in there. I mean, it doesn't need to look the prettiest, but I know you know what you're doing to not warp this thing.
freaking everything, man. Like, so much dedication from literally everybody that I know in my resource to get this done. And, you know, right now, it's just me and Mike out here right now. And everything we got going on, from handling this to handling the rig. I'm grateful for Mike, Elon, Sam, for just helping us and getting this done and seeing it through, even after a massive failure like that. And shout out to Gary Baines for, you know, hooking us up with his cylinder head to get this thing going. And you know, I'm just so grateful.
Well, thank you for being the animal that you are.
Yeah. What'd you let me?
Be crying in a corner somewhere. And look how proficient you are now. The senior member of this team.
Imagine that.
Could you imagine that?
Imagine that.
I'm really proud of you. I really am. I was talking about it earlier. I mean, you know, this entire week has been just, you know,
Chaos.
Yeah, it's been chaos. It's been me and you. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of, you know, there's just a lot going on in a short amount of time and limited resource and manpower. But that's, you know, you saying being resourceful. It's what you got to do in order to make all this happen. And it's not all just a dollar figure. At the end of the day, it's having good people around and
Parts that aren't easy to find.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of this stuff was unobtainium. Right now, I think if you were anybody else, I don't really think you could do it. So I'm just grateful for all the resource and all the people that came through for us to make this happen. And this thing really does sound the best that it has ever sounded since this thing's been together. And I am really looking forward to Atlanta. If this thing can just stay happy, fuck, just let me do my job so I can sleep peacefully. We love you. We love you, Car. We love you. We give you so much love. Just give that back. Just give that back.
Give it back.
Just be loved. Just be loved. All right, it is now Tuesday. Everything is looking good so far. Getting her strapped up on the dyno, verify, make sure everything's all good to go.
Oh yeah!
Dang, dude, that's a big old shaft right there. How you feeling?
My body hurts. Mentally, checked out. Physically, also checked out. But I'm here. I'm here.
I vibe. I vibe with that.
Oh yeah.
I vibe.
Take a ripper down the block after everything closes.
Yeah, right. So our main thing here was not to make more power or anything crazy. It was more so just to verify everything was good. There's no BS going on, no funny business. The spark plug gap was a little bit off, so that's why it was cutting out. But went in, tightened the spark plug gap, just made a pull at 29 PSI. Seems to be pretty solid. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know if Dustin wants to do more, see if he can do more. The cylinder head is a little bit different than the one that we had before in terms of the combustion area. So Mike Ferrara was saying that we could add more timing in here, but I mean, it's all to what Dustin thinks is safe and reliable. So, yeah, I just want to go to the round and kick some butt, man. I don't need to. I mean, we did a lot last year with 600, and we were definitely over 600. So I'm even happy here. But if everybody feels comfortable with going more, I'm not opposed to that. Rain dance for me.